What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about another documentary series that I watched on Netflix. I've been getting a kick out of watching these lately, and this is a new release documentary that just came out this year. And this documentary is exploring the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, led up by David Koresh, the self proclaimed second coming of the Messiah. And this documentary is talking about the standoff at Waco, where the ATF unit went and had a standoff with the cult because the cult had a ton of assault weapons in there. And they had a search warrant for their arrest, and the cops decided to open fire on them. And so I was really interested to watch about this because I don't know a whole lot about it, and I look forward to talking about it today. Waco, American Apocalypse is directed by Tiller Russell. This docuseries includes never-before-seen material from the infamous 51-day standoff between federal agents and a heavily armed religious group in 1993. So I was really excited to watch this documentary because, like I said, I'm really fascinated with cults. I think they're very interesting. I think that the way that they are able to manipulate people into believing their agenda and to excuse really horrible behavior just for a collective conscience is really fascinating. And so, not knowing a whole lot about Waco or David Koresh in general, I was very interested to watch more about it. And unfortunately, this documentary sucked. It was really poorly put together. I feel like if you are unfamiliar with anything about Waco or David Koresh, this is going to confuse the hell out of you. I was pulling up Wikipedia and researching online just to kind of get some sort of background framework. This really is only examining the raid. You're not really getting any information as to David Koresh and how he built his empire and like why the police were kind of getting involved. Like, you don't really get anything other than like, we had a search warrant for these weapons because they were hoarding these weapons. There was outside speculation about child sexual abuse and some things that were going on within the cult. Mostly it is just a recollection from a lot of the ATF members, from some of the cult members that existed there, as to what those days were like, because it was like 51 days. It's like one of the craziest things in American history. And that element of it was really interesting. I thought it was interesting looking into personal accounts from people who were there and what they experienced and what they went through. The problem with this documentary as well is it feels incredibly biased from, honestly, from both parties. Just the way that the conversation is framed. I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of neutrality with it, which I know the whole thing about documentary and documentarians' approach to filmmaking is you try to come at a subject with as much neutrality as you possibly can, unless you're trying to push an agenda. The problem with this one is you get a lot of time for the ATF agents to be like, we did the best we could when we went in here and we did everything we possibly could to make this right. And then you get crazy cult lunatics spewing crap about David Koresh and how, like, oh, we lived a very specific way and people just don't understand us. And so, like, you're watching it and you feel kind of grimy because you're like, oh God, why are we letting... There's this one woman in the documentary. Her name is Kathy. She is an absolute lunatic. She was one of, like, David Koresh's, like, right-hand people. And she's in there, like, trying to justify his pedophilia. And it is, like, the most disgusting, sickening, awful shit that you've ever seen in your entire life. And you're like, what? You could have left. And, like, I'm sure that the director was like, wait till we get the shock value out of letting this psycho talk to everyone. But you just kind of feel gross while you're watching it. Like, okay, I get that she was a nut job. Like, I don't want to hear her talk about, like, how incredible this human being was, who was literally a scum of the earth piece of trash. And then, like, from the ATF agents, you know, like, there's this one sniper guy that they interview who just seems kind of, like, off his rocker, unhinged. And a lot of, like, the personal accounts got really repetitive. It was a three-part episodic series, and I didn't feel like I really got much out of it other than, like, oh boy, isn't this suspenseful? Isn't it getting really intense? Like, informationally, you got a little bit about what happened and, like, the big showdown and how it ended up playing out. But aside from that, you don't get a whole lot into Koresh and why he was doing what he was doing, which to me That's the most fascinating element about these cults, is like, why did they do this? And after doing some research online, it's a really fascinating story. And he was a lunatic, like one of just an absolute unhinged crazy person who got in a position of power and manipulated and abused and hurt a lot of people, which is a common thread in these cults, is that people take these positions of power and hurt and abuse and misuse their positions of power to deeply scar and hurt a lot of people. And thank goodness he got his just desserts. But yeah, I don't know. This documentary, I just feel like with such an interesting subject matter, that you could have explored it in a way that was so much more fascinating and so much more nuanced, and it just felt really sloppy. And honestly, like, that's disappointing, because I feel like this subject matter could be handled by the right person and really kind of pack a really heavy emotional punch and leave you wanting to explore more and study more about the situation. But honestly, it was just really flat, and I felt kind of like I wasted my time. So have you seen Waco, American Apocalypse? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this was really bad. I thought the information that I studied on my own about it was really interesting. I think there were some moments that worked, but for the most part, it wasn't very good, and it wasn't well done, and that's disappointing, because I really want to know more about this situation, and I look forward to reading more into it as well. As always, if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.